Hey everybody, this is Kelvin Redd. I want to welcome you to today's broadcast of on Facebook, my personal profile, Facebook business page, and on YouTube. And I call this is interesting because I want to bring this up. I call this my weekly observations. That's what I want to call this. And I came up with the idea is because number one, I wanted to communicate more with my clients, but I want this to be about as casual can be. So my current clients, any prospective clients, what have you. But I came up with this idea also because I have all these thoughts running through my head. And sometimes I'm in a position where I just can't sit and write and put it in a blog or anything like that. So I thought, you know what? Let's resume doing the Facebook lives, and I'm decided to broadcast this on various platforms. Now, back in the during the pandemic, during 2020, I went live sometimes 2 times a week, but we're not doing that now. And so everything that I talk about is about self-awareness and servant leadership. And I realize, listen, y'all, I realize that the work that I do, particularly when it comes to social media, it may not be sexy. Trust me, I guarantee you it may not be sexy. But the way I want to break it down to you is that I want to share with you essence of leadership and self-awareness that we may or may not see in our everyday lives, and just show you how both of them, self-awareness being the most important characteristic that you should develop, and how important leadership is, and how they both intertwine in everything we do, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, the Little League ball field, okay, at church, your city government, your school systems, whatever it is, going to the grocery store, the cleaners, it doesn't matter. It plays a tremendous role in everything that we do. So, look, for those of you who've been through my Emergenetics workshop, I have told you that I'm very process oriented. So I've got my notes right here. I'm gonna be glancing down from time to time. So this is casual. This is not me upstanding, giving a keynote speech or a workshop or whatever. Now, my goal is to do this once a week. That's my goal. And I want to do it on Thursdays, preferably around this time. And I'm putting some caveats out there because, first of all, I travel a lot. Okay. I travel a lot. And in a couple of weeks, my schedule is going to become very active. It's going to be very active. I want to improve each and every week. So, what you see today, and I say this everywhere I go, don't judge by the day. Let's continue to grow together because I'm a huge believer in continuous improvement. All right. And I will give a lot of sports analogies. Okay. I give a lot. I think sports is the greatest metaphor alive, is the greatest metaphor alive, um, for life, for the world we live in. It's a great metaphor in everything that we do. And I can weave in uh, topics of emergenetics, leadership, self awareness, you name it, servant leadership. I can weave that in everything that I do, every conversation that I have. It's there. Just if I choose to bring it out. Okay. So these are going to be weekly observations. There are going to be 4 things that I have observed over the past week. As I said last week, some of these are reminders, some of them are not. Okay. Some of them, you might not have heard me say this before. You may have read it, have not read it from anybody else. All right. So, I'm a pretty button up kind of guy. I'm the one that always has the Oxford shirts, the button down, all this kind of stuff. And but that's, when I'm at home, I'm about as casual as you can possibly get. Matter of fact, my wife told me one time, she said, you need to probably invest in better casual clothes when you're running your errands or what have you during the middle of the day, because you look really, really like too casual. And so I did that. But, when I'm in this studio office of mine, because you can't see the green screen and the lights and all that kind of stuff, it's just me. Okay. And so, again, all of this is for me to kind of stay in touch with my clients. So I want to talk about the 4 observations from this week. And the first observation came a couple of days ago. Now, I want everybody to show a little self awareness. By the way, the hat says DYD, define your destiny. I want everybody to show a little self awareness in what I'm about to say. All right. So I'm an Auburn guy, right? And I'm a proud Auburn alum, right? And I'm on campus a great deal. Lots, I've got quite a few clients at Auburn University's campus. I try to go to every basketball game. I try to go to every home football game, home basketball games. And I love the university. I go to baseball games. I'm all over the place. I like to take walks around campus. But I'm about to say something, and just chill for a second. And listen. So I'm watching the SEC Media Days a couple of days ago, and Kirby Smart, University of Georgia's head football coach, was at the podium. And whenever I hear a coach, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, it doesn't matter. Whenever I hear a coach talk about leadership, that's when my ears perk up. And Georgia fans, you're probably going to love me for saying this. Auburn, Alabama, the rest of the conference, you may not enjoy what I'm about to say, but Kirby Smart has proven to me that he is on the journey towards self awareness. And to me, self awareness is the difference between being good and great. And he's a young guy. So I'm going to say that the University of Georgia's football program is going to be on top for quite a long time on the field. They're going to be on top. And so here's what he said. He talked about the cost associated with leadership. And I'm listening to it, and I'm, as a leadership coach and a facilitator and writer, I got this woo, I had a hallelujah moment. All right. So here's the first thing you said: the cost associated with leadership. You see, you cannot ignore these costs associated with it. So if you're in a position of leadership, manager, supervisor, college presidents, because I coach college presidents. Okay, I coach CEOs, division heads. I work with them, and so here are the three. Number one, you will have to make hard decisions that negatively affect people you care about. Yeah. If you're in a position of leadership, you probably participated in a layoff process when you have to lay off employees, people that you know very, very well. It is not a good feeling at all. I've done that. And let me tell you, we sat around that table and we deliberated, we talked, there were tears. Nobody wanted to do it. Because here's the deal: when you are a leader, when you're a leader, in the palm of your hands, you have grocery bills, you have little league football cleats, you've got ballet lessons, you've got medical bills, you got all those things and mortgage payments, you got all these things in the palm of your hands. And so when you go to work every day, you got to realize that you've been entrusted to lead. You've been entrusted to serve. And in some ways, it's far deeper than leadership. It's almost a holistic spiritual endeavor. But here's another thing about leadership. That one thing he said that I don't hear a lot of, and that is, first of all, he did say this: a leader has to do what's in the best interest of the organization. So when you're doing things that, when you make hard decisions that are going to impact people that you know very well, everybody needs to know in the organization that as the leader, my job is to do what's in the best interest of the organization, first and foremost. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. But here's another thing about leadership. In many cases, the leader has to think for the people who sometimes can't think for themselves or who won't think for themselves. And that's the role of the leader. That's why sometimes I'm always surprised, and look, I'm not getting all hot and bothered by what I'm about to tell you, what I've experienced. But when I approach a leader and they tell me sometimes, when I approach a leader about a prospective workshop or what have you, and they tell me they have to consult with their employees first, to me, that is a red flag. Do you do that all the time? Like, you mean to tell me you don't know what your employees need? Steve Jobs said it best. We've always been taught that the customer comes first. Well, Steve Jobs said sometimes the customer doesn't even know what he or she wants. So let's think about it. Sometimes you got to think for the people who can't think for themselves. Here's the second one. You will be disliked despite your best attempt to do the best for the most. Yeah, I experienced that myself. Okay, I experienced that. Like being on a school board and you think you're doing the best you can for everyone involved, and come to find out, wow, have people hate you and your decision that you made. And I consider myself to be a very intelligent person, very well read, deep roots. And that happens to every single leader. Here's the third thing: You will be misunderstood and won't always have the opportunity to defend yourself, which goes back to my previous point. That's that's the cost of leadership. To whom much is given, much is what? Right? So there's a cost to it. Most leaders don't even spend a lot of time at home, right? I heard one speaker say, if you're giving your all in one area, then there's probably another area that's lacking. Okay, it's kind of like if it's your calling, and we know that in Latin the word calling means to suffer. That's part of the suffering. It comes with the territory. So that's the first observation. That blew me away. I was so glad to hear someone in the athletic realm talk about that. Because a lot of times when I approach them, it's like they don't get it. They don't get it. Okay. So that's observation number one. Here's observation number two. And this is things that that I've seen in my daily life all week long. And that is, I want to ask you a question. What does silence mean? What does that mean? Like, for instance, when you email somebody and they don't respond, when you text someone and they don't respond. Now, there's a difference in saying, I communicated with this person, I communicated with them, and they never responded versus, I heard from them a week or two later. But I think a lot of people put a couple things I'm finding here. Number one, sender, receiver, feedback, the three most important words in communication. And without either one of those three, then you have no communication. So if I send you a text message or an email and I'm sending it to you, you're the receiver. But if you don't give me any feedback, there's no communication. And I'm always curious, like when like I had some clients who've expressed interest in workshops, what have you. Lord have mercy, please don't let me get in trouble for this. But it's like they've expressed interest, then they disappear on the face of the earth. And I'm like, that's fine. It's okay. Now, I'm a process oriented thinker. So if you're telling me you want to do something, my biggest challenge is like scheduling. Scheduling is a bear. Like the first couple of days of August, I have a potential schedule nightmare. I really do. And so I try to avoid that at all costs. I try to avoid that at all costs. And so I'm holding open dates and things of that nature for people who've expressed interest, but I never hear from them. Then I have to give it up to somebody else. And it's fine. All I need to know is, do you want to do the workshop or not? Because if you don't, we can move forward. The relationship's not going to end. No, I'm not that shallow or sensitive. I realize that. I have a lot of people who are trying to get workshops, and they're all in the fall. Contrary to last year, they were mostly in the summer. But I was just curious about what the silence mean. And I see that all over the place. You text somebody and they don't respond. They don't respond at all. And I'm on the phone with a very good friend, and I'm talking, and there's like nothing on the other end. And I said, "You there?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm listening." And I'm thinking, well, we can't do the nodding of the heads or anything, but say something. Say, uh-huh. Sender, receiver, feedback. That's observation number two. All right. So here is observation number three. I want to talk about introversion versus my boredom this year. I have been. I knew back in May that I was not going to have any workshops in July. And when I finished my last workshop in June, I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my gosh, I get a full week, excuse me, a full month to myself. And keep in mind, that's not a full month of doing nothing. That's a full month of creating new workshops, new speeches, new social media content. That's what I mean when I got very excited. There was no helter skelter. Well, I realized about a week and a half into July, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like, I don't idle very well, you know? And so I'm in my studio office. My wife is not here. I'm here by myself all the time. And let me just tell you this. When I first started this business, when I started Kelvin Redd LLC 7 years ago, I realized within the first 4 or 5 months that if I was not careful, I ran the risk of becoming too introverted. And that's another reason why I wanted to start this broadcast, because a lot of you might think, well, it's easy for Kelvin to stand up and speak to people and that kind of thing, which it relatively is, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be rusty, right? So I want to make sure that I'm honing my speaking skills. And for those of you who don't realize, I'm not I'm not as skilled as speaking extemporaneously as you might think. That's why I've got my notes. I've got my notes here. Okay. But I've been extremely bored. Now let's talk about the introversion part. Now, the definition of an introvert is a person who's energized by being alone. But the key word is not alone, it's energized. So that means when I'm by myself, I'm recuperating my energy. And then, okay, when I'm by myself, when I'm alone, I'm recuperating my energy. But then after the energy has been recuperated, it's like, hey, I don't mind going to the party. Hey, I don't mind going to the event. It's not a problem at all. I don't mind going to visit lots of family and friends, but I've got to have that energy. And so I have a lot of energy. I have more right now than I thought I'd ever have. And so, but I don't have any workshops. My friends are working. My best friend is out of town. My other best friend, he's working right now. So my wife's out of town today. She's out at a conference. So, and then she works every day. So I get bored. I never thought that I would get bored. It never, I never thought I would. And so I'm actually looking forward to the fall of the year, which is my favorite time of the year anyway, because my birthday is in the fall and I look forward to it. And so I love football season. You can't get to basketball season until you get through football season. And so I'm really, really looking forward to the start of football season, going to football games, traveling, and things of that nature, and seeing my clients again, seeing the people that I enjoy working with. So that's observation number three that dawned on me, and I hope whatever I say it helps you. And here's the last one. Um, I'm going to use an example with this comment. Observation number four: be true to your word. Do what you say you're going to do. I'm going to step on some toes right now. I've met a lot of people, not just in leadership, and many of them have leadership roles at work, but they don't do what they say they're going to do. Now, I've been guilty of this myself. I've been guilty of it. But you got to be true to your word. It's as little as saying, "Hey, let me call you right back," and you don't call back. Things of that nature. Be true to your word. And I'm going to give you a very good example. Next week, I am going to upload a video where 2 days ago I interviewed 2020 Olympic gold medalist and skeet shooter Amber English. I interviewed a gold medalist. Do you realize the amount of focus that it takes to be a skeet shooter? It's kind of like the person who is on the putt. They're on the green and they're putting for the win, and it's nervous. It's nervous time. Or the free throw shooter who is at the line of the free throw line with 2 seconds to go, and your team is down by two, and you've got to hit both free throws for your team to win. Or, hey, what about this? What if there's no time on the clock and the score is tied, and you got to hit 3 free throws to win the ball game, or at least one? I wish Virginia had missed that free throw against Auburn in the Final Four, but that's another story. I digress. And I do hope to work with the University of Virginia one day. But working with Amber English, talking to her and interviewing her, that was very fascinating. And the thing that I really and truly like is that when we met, and I tell the whole story of how we met in the video, but I immediately asked, I said, "You have an impeccable story. I would love to interview you." It's not so much that she agreed, but she followed up on it. She was true to her word. And I really, really appreciate that. That showed me a level of humility. And she displayed that. She displayed a level of humility that I don't think I've seen from someone who is, quote unquote, a superstar. And I was very, very pleased about that. So That one is going to come next week. And as I think about it, I may or may not go live because I want that particular video to be the focal point of next week because I think it was outstanding. It was brilliant. I learned so much. And no matter what job you're in, I think her principles can help you, whether you're an athlete or what have you. And if you live in my area, you're Columbus and Phoenix City, if you haven't called up this young lady to ask them to come speak to your students, now I'm not trying to do her job for her, and get her in trouble with her schedule, but you all are missing out on, and she's young enough where I know she can connect with your young people. All right. So those are the four observations. Number one, did you hear Kirby Smart's the costs associated with leadership? Number two, what does silence mean? Number three, introversion versus boredom for me during the month of July. And finally, be true to your word and using Amber English as an example. All right. Now I'm still trying to learn how to work this platform that I'm on, and so there may be some comments in the comment section. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn that, and so as the weeks move forward, hopefully I'll become an expert at it, and I'll be able to answer questions in the comment section. So if I missed you, please forgive me. All right. So this is Kelvin Redd. I'm signing off right now. Remember, define your destiny.